And today I'm going to make a Cookie Monster, and it's going to consist of everything I could find in the supermarket. Oreo cookies, chocolate chip cookies, chocolate chip, the minis, the little chips, and that's all going into a sugar and water base. So you have the formula there. You can follow along with me. I've got 6 quarts of water, and I'm going to add 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of sugar. The variation is I haven't decided yet how much sugar I'm going to use because I haven't made this yet. So I'm going to start with 1.5 pounds, which would be, let's see, 24 ounces. Let's see. Sorry, this scale is throwing me off. Okay. Now, the only thing you don't want to do in our batch freezer, we're the only machine in the world that you can throw everything in. Nuts, cookies, candies, everything goes into the machine. No other batch freezer can do that because their cylinders are too thin and their dashers over there are too flimsy. They'll just get beat up by Italian ice or even throwing nuts or cookies into the machine. We make our freezing cylinders, instead of taking a thin sheet of stainless steel and stamping it into a spaghetti pot, if this was stainless steel, we do it by taking quarter-inch plate stainless steel, flat steel, and rolling it and then welding it, putting on the back plate, welding it. A weld is stronger than the metal it's joining. And so we make a cylinder that we have never worn through a barrel, not in 111 years. And nobody else can say that. Their machines wear out in 8 to 11 years. The only thing you don't want to do because of the plastic blades is if I pour sugar into the machine the way the old timers used to do and let the machine mix it, I might as well go to the beach and get 2 pounds of sand and throw it in the machine because the sugar is going to be the same coarse consistency. So I've got cold water here, my 6 quarts. I've got my sugar, and I may add more. And I'm just going to stir that up. And sugar dissolves very nicely in cold water. You don't have to get it totally dissolved. If there's a few granules, pouring, in there that aren't dissolved, it's no big deal. But this doesn't take long to mix up. And I love watching other companies. They take their negatives and turn it into a positive. When they're making strawberry ice cream, they are making only vanilla in the machine and they're adding strawberries in it. And they talk about gently folding the strawberries in. Who are you kidding? It's vanilla ice cream with strawberries added to it. If I can add my strawberries right into the machine, now for every particle of vanilla mix, there's a particle of strawberry next to it. My flavor is going to be much more intense. That's the way Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry began, was using our batch freezers. And then they got so big they had to go to something called a continuous that it's $500,000 and it makes 1,000 gallons an hour. And all they can do is make vanilla and pump in strawberries.
Steve, you have a question over here.
Yes.
Which freezer did you want?
Oh, put them in the hardening cabinet over there. Thank you. So I'm just going to, those are set at about 25 below zero. Now, I don't have to harden Italian ice. Ice cream you do to finish the process, but for Italian ice, not at all. The Sears chest freezers do a fine job. But the reason I'm hardening it is I want to transport it. I want to take it over to Palm Beach when I go over next time. And at 25 below zero, I can throw it in an igloo cooler and it's going to stay rock hard because it is so cold. Cold is the world's best preservative. The colder you can get something, the longer it's going to last you. So I've got my sugar and water in the machine. I'm going to go get the ice cream mix. So let me do that. That's in another refrigerator. So here's what's making it the cream ice. I'm pouring in the dairy. This comes from a local dairy. They're all over the country. And what it is what you would do if you were doing it at home, though the federal government pretty much won't let you. You would be mixing cream, milk, sugar, and something you wouldn't know to add, skim milk. And that's a base for a fresh base for ice cream. We in the industry, like every industry, have fancy terms for simple things. Instead of calling it a blend, we call it mix. Mix is terrible. Makes it. I'll show you what mix sounds like. Mix sounds like this stuff: non-fat, dry milk. We would only use a powdered product here in Florida if we had a hurricane and lost our power for 3 or 4 days. But this blend came out of the cow yesterday, was delivered last night, and here it is fresh. So we've got we've got the water, the sugar, a little bit of the dairy in there. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to set for Italian ice and start it up. I'm going to turn on the refrigeration to get it going. I'm going to set a timer to watch it. And again, I don't put a timer on the machine. If I put a timer on this machine, it's going to raise the price of the machine $230 because it would have to meet all the other standards of the machine. National Sanitation Foundation, Underwriters Laboratories. When you see something coming out of Italy with a little CE on it, they're trying to promote that as equal to UL, Underwriters Laboratories. It's not. It's nothing at all. It's nothing more than an advisory committee. It would be like CE would come to Emery Thompson and say, oh, we think you should use stainless steel in your dasher instead of lead pipe. It's an advisory. You know, that doesn't mean anything. UL doesn't allow that kind of stuff. So I don't put any stock in something that says CE. It's just, I mean, it's expensive for me to have UL. They're coming in here doing flash investigations all the time, but it proves that the thing is built right. Now here's the chips going in.
He said it at 14 minutes.
Yeah, but it's just an advisory. It's just so I know to get back to it, because otherwise I get talking to you and 2.5 hours later, I've forgotten that I've said it.
So again, you're looking for a soft mashed potato consistency, and that's when you pull the product. Now, Steve, can you add these cookies at any time in the chocolate chips, or should you add them later? If
No,
you add them earlier or later, how does that affect?
I add them right away because I want them ground up. I want them to be my flavor. If it was strawberry, I'd call it fruit flavor. And then I'm going to take half the cookies and I'm going to break them like that into 4 pieces. And as it's coming out, I'm going to shake it in. That's going to be my identity. So I have the flavor of the cookies in the mix, and I have the identity of what it is as it's coming out. So that will be the next thing. I got the supreme compliment from a customer. He was dad sitting his kids. And, I grew up raising my kids and watching Sesame Street. He put on videotapes of Emery Thompson of these classes. And he's got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And the supreme compliment that he gave me is he said he was walking past the room, and the 4-year-old turns to the 2-year-old and says, now don't try that with a tailor. But that's the case. Don't try this with any other machine. You couldn't get them in to begin with. They'll void your warranty if you do it because the machines aren't strong enough to do it. But this is where you get the flavor. You don't get flavor by just pulling out sugar and water and then throwing some chips in it. I got to tell you something about me that nobody knows. I got so addicted to cookies that, it was horrible. I used to keep bags of cookies.
What do you mean, Steve?
You won't see me eat it. Because I went to a hypnotherapist, a hypnosis person, fancy name, and I had myself hypnotized not to eat cookies. I haven't had a cookie since before Easter of last year. And this doesn't affect me in the least. However, if you take that cookie and crunch it up like that, that's not a cookie anymore, folks. That's an ingredient. So I do make some fine definitions. I can eat this.
Why don't you put it in there?
No, it was all over my hands. I'm going to lick them later.
I would have eaten it.
But in this grate, you can just throw everything in. And like the little kid said, don't try this with anybody else's machine. Those of you who don't know, Taylor, which is the big gorilla in soft ice cream machines, has gone out of the batch freezer business. They couldn't compete with us. So if someone tries to sell you a Taylor batch freezer, they went out this summer, and so they're selling you old equipment. When you buy, always check the manufacture date. You don't want something that's been sitting around for 2 years in a warehouse. I mean, you wouldn't buy a brand new car that's been sitting in a warehouse for 2 years. Hey, we're going to sell you a brand new 2013 car. You just wouldn't do it. Your machine, if you buy an Emery Thompson, I can guarantee you, is not built yet. It hasn't even been built. So you'll be getting the latest and the greatest always. We hand make all our machines. Now I'm breaking these up so I can add them to the ice cream as it's coming out. Now in my good old days of eating ice cream, all my formulas are stipulated that there's going to be at least 4 or 5 cookies left over. There's enough in the machine, so this is for the ice cream maker. But I was teaching a lady...
Or Rod.
Yeah, right. I was teaching a lady how to make ice cream one day, and I warned her. I said, now, don't fall in love with your product. She said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, don't be eating 30 ounces of ice cream a day, or 15 ounces a day. And she said, I would never do that. I said, ma'am, we've just made 15 batches of ice cream, and you took a taste of each one with a spoon, and each taste was an ounce. You just ate 15 ounces of ice cream today. Did you really mean to do that? I mean, that's a whole container. So, love what you're making, but don't love the product. And then again, there's the lady up in Newark, New Jersey, who called up and she said, I've got some bubblegum licorice Italian ice. It's in my flash freezer, and I want to know if it's any good. And I said, well, it's 40, 30 below zero. It's as good as the day you made it because it's so cold, it acts as a perfect preservative. By the way, when did you make it? She said, oh, I made it 10 months ago. And I said, lady, if you've got ice in your freezer for 10 months, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. They're telling you, we don't like bubblegum licorice ice cream. It's a lousy flavor. Get rid of it. And it sounds funny, but it's an important point. If I make an ice cream, it's coffee banana, and I love it. It's absolutely great. It's horrible. Everybody,
it's the best ice cream there is.
It is. Well, you are the only ones who like it. Everybody else hates it, and that's great because in that freezer is probably about 5 gallons of coffee banana. It's all mine. I know no one's going to steal it. The Grand Marnier liqueur, gone in a second. Oh, this looks nice. Oh, the question is the ratio always water to cream 3 to 1? No, it's not. And it's a very good question. What you do is you look at your ice and you say, what should this taste like, number one? A lemon ice should be tart. A cookie ice should be sweet. So I don't have citric acid in here, though I could use it to enhance the flavor. That's going to determine your sugar content first is what is it I'm making. And then where am I getting the sugar from? I only put 1.5 pounds with a question mark. Do I need to go to 2 pounds? Well, I can tell by the sound of the machine I don't need to because I put so much extra sugar in there through the chips and the cookies and the more cookies. That was a ton of sugar I threw in there. So I didn't pour a lot of cane sugar in like I did lemon ice. Lemon ice is, when I do it, is 7 pounds of sugar. If I'm making this, what have I got? I've got 1.5 pounds of sugar because I have other sources of sugar. My sources are the ingredients that I put in. So you can have a mathematical, if someone calls me up and says, my machine runs for 5 minutes and then starts banging and clanking and it must be terribly wrong. Boy, we've got such a mentality now that it's always the machine's fault because everything comes from China And what do we do with that big ass TV that we bought for $1,500? We throw it out. Who fixes those? Emery Thompsons don't go wrong. You don't throw them out. So when I tell the person, there's nothing wrong with the machine, it's your formula. You don't have enough sugar in there, and you're building up a coating of ice on the walls. The solution: add a little more sugar, add a little more agave nectar, or add maple syrup. These are all great sources of sugar. Here's molasses. So you've got a lot of different opportunities of how you want to do it. This is looking pretty nice. And I'm going to need a tub. Oh, here's a piece of ingredient. Good. Now I'm just going to check it. And that's looking pretty good. It's cutting off clean. It's not oozing out. Again, I could pull this at any thickness if I want. If Rod came running from the front of the store and said, "We just ran out of cookie ice," I could pull this quite stiff, and we could take it right out front and do it. But I'm used to making ice, say for 4 or 5 hours a day. I want to get it out fast and let the freezer do the finishing work, and on to the next batch. So to me, that's ready. There's a couple of ways to do this. Let me get my spatula.
Is that 14 minutes?
If that. So I can open up part way, and I can shake my pieces in.
10 minutes.
You got to be fast in this business because it's all coming out quickly. And this is the easiest way I've found to do it. So now I've got my fruit identity and my flavor. Whoa, baby.
You want a bucket, Steve?
Huh?
You want a bucket?
No, I'm good. Now, in the bottom is cookie dust. The tendency is to put the cookie dust into the product. Don't do it, because as a New Yorker, when I look at this product in your dipping cabinet and I see the cookie dust, I know that's not cookie dust, that's dirt. So we don't want people to think you put dirt in your machine. Doesn't it look like dirt? It's just down there. So don't do that. And this is all ready to go. I'm just going to mix it a little bit. Great texture. But look how little sugar I put in there.
Did you all save your spoons?
No. Everybody gets a new spoon. Okay. Let's see what this tastes like. I'll go first in case it will kill you. This is why I experiment live. It's good. It could have used a little bit more sugar to bring out the flavor a little more. But come on up and try it. See what you think.